Well, hello. We are here for another video. We are going to be talking about effortless budgeting. This is budgeting hacks for the budget haters out there, and I would say I am a budget hater as well. I don't like budgets. I think that they are useless in many respects, and I'll tell you why. I think they're useless for a lot of people. Some people they work, I will give you that. Some people they really do work for them. But for most people, I would say they're a fallacy, or they're the dream that we are trying to put together. And let me give you a real world example. This is not a client, this is not a prospect, so I'm not giving away anything. This was public. I was on a Facebook group that talks about finances. And essentially, this lady put together her budget. It was all just written out on like a yellow pad. And she took a picture of it and put it on the Facebook group, which I thought was very brave. And she said that it was her and her husband and her two kids that are preteen. And I started looking through her budget. Some of them, okay, realistic. You know, she lived in the Midwest. It wasn't that expensive, as much expensive for certain things. Okay. But for eating out, she put $100 a month for 4 people. Now, it's not that that can't be done, okay? If she has completely streamlined everything, then that's very possible to do, right? You can definitely, do $100 a month, but most people don't. I would say that that's like the 1 or 2% that are going to do that. Most people will spend a couple $100 a month for 2 people going out to eat. I sit there and I wonder if that is a true reality or if that's what she wants to have happen. I kind of think it's what she wants to have happen, not what actually happens. And, I've been doing this for 13 years. I'm a financial advisor. I help people get to financial independence as quickly as possible. And I want people to get to financial independence. But if that means putting down numbers that aren't realistic, that are a dream that we are trying to do, but isn't possible, that's just setting yourself up for failure. And that is kind of what we're going to go through, is how do we set ourselves up so that we are actually doing the things we want to do, enjoying our life, because I really do think that that is important, that we enjoy our life while we're living it, not just save for the future. Nobody's going to do that anymore, right? There's too many fun things to do while you're younger. And how do we still hit our goals? And there are ways to do that without having to sit down and make an Excel spreadsheet on your Saturday or dread those times and put together a budget that we are never going to use. That is the fear, right? And that's not really an out of place fear. That's not a fear that's unrealistic, because there was a NerdWallet report that 84% of people say that they actually exceed the budget that they put together. That's a lot. That's a lot of people. And how many people actually weren't being honest in that report? And I would say probably a lot of people were kind of ashamed by that. So therefore they were probably fibbing. So it's probably higher than that, in my opinion. And 55% of Americans have just decided that they are not going to do a budget anymore. They just don't do a budget. And that was from a report from the penny hoarder. And so when we think about that, half of the population has just given up on a budget, and the half that has, 84% of them say that they're not even following it really. What is the point of putting ourselves through agony? And there's really no point, right? You can definitely try it, but if it doesn't work, you should not see it as a reflection of you did something badly or bad, that you are a failure at this. That you should really see it as this is kind of what happens with budgets. So there's a couple of different budgeting techniques that might work for some people. I have found that they kind of work for some people. A lot of people they don't, but it doesn't mean we shouldn't go through them. There's this thing called the 50-30-20 rule. It means you take your take-home paycheck, not gross, net, after taxes. Okay, I don't care about the taxes part. We want to have what comes home. I think that's the biggest thing is people say, I make $100,000 a year. Yeah, but that's pre-tax. We want post-tax money. Okay, that's the biggest thing. So 50% of your take home every month should go to needs. And that is housing, utilities, food, basics, things that we need, things that we cannot live without, right? 30% should go to wants and 20% should go to savings. Now, that is a very easy rule to do because if you say 20% goes to savings, you can set it up so that it automatically moves from your bank account that your paycheck's deposited to another bank account, whereas your savings account, right? Or it can go straight into investments, or it can go wherever it needs to go for savings for you. But I would say most people don't do that. And the reason is that it's not that it's a hard rule. I mean, 50, 30, 20, it's very easy to follow, and you get to spend more than you're saving. I mean, that's nice, right? 30% versus 20. However, 20% might not be enough for a lot of people. That's the problem. 20% might just be kind of barely making it to 70 for retirement. If that's the problem with that. So if you don't sit down and actually do the math and go, how much do I need a year to live off of if I decided I didn't want to retire at age 65, and do that kind of backwards math, which most people don't want to do, it makes their head spin, then you don't know if the 20% is the right number. And it could be too much, it could be too little. I would say it's probably too little for a lot of people. And that's the problem. It depends on your goals. If you're trying to retire early, which a lot of my clients are, they're trying to retire early, then 20% might not do it, right? So that's a nice rule to have in the back of your head, but you really need to do the math behind that to see if that actually works for you. We talked about automatic savings. I think that that's really important. If you do not feel like you're disciplined enough to be able to do this on your own, you should automate your savings so that things are going into different avenues. You can have them go into investments pretty easily, things like that, if that's what you're doing for your savings bucket. If you're just trying to build up emergency fund, just have it go into a separate bank account that maybe you don't look at as much, right? And another thing that has come up is these roundup apps. I get these all the time where, you spend $27.33, right? And then to round it up to $28, that, 70 plus cents goes over to, I guess 60 plus cents, goes over to another app that gets invested. It's a nice tool. It's a nice way to save some chunk change kind of thing, but it's never going to make up for retirement. So please do not rely on that to get you to your goals, because essentially that's not going to do it, unfortunately. I hate to be a bearer of bad news, but that's not. The other thing that I've noticed with those apps, by the way, just as a point, is I've had clients who do that and they don't realize that the money that they're saving isn't invested. It's just sitting in a bank account that's getting 0.02%. If you're going to do that, make sure you are managing that app, because advisors are not attached to those most of the time. So you need to check to make sure that those are actually invested, because otherwise you're just kind of saving it, and you could do that on your own. And you're paying a fee a lot of times for that too, which people don't seem to realize. Okay. A lot of people say, well, I want to get on budgeting, but I don't want to do an Excel spreadsheet. So what else can I do? Well, you can use budgeting apps, which are out there like Mint and You Need a Budget and things like that. They're very easy for tracking things like how much you spend on groceries, how much you spend on entertainment, how much you spend on different things. And so those might be very helpful for some people. A lot of times you can attach your credit cards or your bank statements to them. Some people love those kind of things. A lot of people don't like them. And also, they're not necessarily free. The free version is not necessarily what you want. So you might end up having to pay for it, which people are not happy about as well. They have to make money. They're companies, right? So that's one thing you could do. Another thing people can say is you can have subscription trackers that are out there to manage your subscriptions. Those work to an extent. I have heard that they're more annoying than anything. I don't use one. because I will tell you what I do in a second. But those kind of subscription trackers I've heard have helped some people, but most people say they're just annoying and they turn them off. They end up basically all the notifications that come through, they just end up swiping away without looking at them. So they're like, well, what's the point of my having this, right? Which I kind of understand. The last thing is, if you're spending too much, you could have bank alerts set up so that you are told, if you have a low balance or there's a large transaction. I would say you'd probably want to do that anyhow if you're not looking at your bank account a lot, but I will try to encourage you to look at your bank account more because I think it's important. So that's one of the tracking things that we'll talk about that you can do instead of actually building a budget. There is another simplified thing, like let's say technology is not your thing. You could do, the envelope system I've heard a lot about. I believe Dave Ramsey started that, but I'm not positive. I know the people who've told me about it have gotten it from Dave Ramsey, but I don't know if it was his or not, where you basically use cash and put it in different envelopes, like this is for groceries this month, this is. The problem is that cash is not something we're using a lot anymore, and you have to do a huge lifestyle shift to do that. Are people willing to do that for the rest of their lives? Maybe if it's working for them, but I think the amount of people who are willing to use those kind of things like just an envelope and some cash are dwindling. So if that works for you, then that's great. I've had a couple clients that worked perfectly for, and it was great. I've had a lot of clients look at me like, are you insane when I talk about it? So that's not the right method for them. A lot of people also say you use account methods. So you have a certain account that you spend this kind of thing from, and here's an account that you save to, and here's an account that you get your direct deposit. I have clients that have like 15 different accounts with different things. One's a travel fund and one's this, and that's totally fine. If you like that method, please do it. I think that that would be great. But a lot of people don't like having all those accounts. They're like, I just want maybe one or two accounts, that's it. And I get that too, that makes sense. And here's the one that I think is the best, because this is what I do. My husband does this too, and a lot of clients and a lot of people I've told to do this are much happier for the fact that they do this if they actually follow my advice on this, which a lot of them don't. But weekly check-ins. So basically looking at your accounts once a week, taking 5 minutes to do a weekly check-in. Look at your credit card statement. Look at your bank statement. See what you are spending money on. Track how much you are saving. And if you're behind or you're ahead of the game, or maybe you're right on it. Most of the time you're going to be behind or ahead. Okay, let's just be honest. But you can see where you're at. You can see how much you've saved. If you're in a high yield savings account, you can see how much interest you're accumulating every month. That is very motivating for a lot of people when they see how big right now, rates are very, very good right now in high yield savings accounts. When they see how much they're accumulating just from it sitting in a high yield savings account, there's a lot of very motivated people to save more money to those accounts now, but that's not always the case. But I think doing a weekly check-in and looking at your bank accounts doesn't mean you're opening up a spreadsheet and filling it in. Now, my husband has a spreadsheet he's had for before I met him, which I think was like 16 years ago or something. So essentially he's been using one for probably like 20 years. You don't have to do that. He loves spreadsheets. He loves Excel. A lot of people don't. I'm kind of an Excel novice. I'm not great at it. I'm learning, but I'm not great at it. It would not be my vehicle of choice, essentially. But I end up using QuickBooks. I run a business. I use my QuickBooks. I make sure I go in there every week and fill in, expenses and different things. And so it makes me look at things. I have plenty of people who are not business owners who use QuickBooks for that purpose. But I have plenty of people who just look at their accounts every month or every week, just to see what they are spending money on. And they sit there, and it's not about self-criticizing. It's not like you were bad for purchasing that smoothie. You were bad for going to dinner with your friend. That's not what this is about. It's about seeing where you're spending your money and being realistic. Because the biggest thing that I have talked to people about is when they come to me and they say, I feel like I'm overspending. I ask this one question and a light bulb goes off. And I've seen more people make a positive change in their cash flow by just this one question. Are you throwing a lot of groceries out? Yeah, I am. Because every week I think I'm going to eat healthy and I buy all this fresh food, and by the end of the week I'm exhausted and I've only cooked once and we're throwing it all away. That is a more common story than anything else I hear. And if you just say to yourself, look it, I know I'm not going to cook. I know that it's not happening. I'm just going to eat out, maybe buy one or two, meals or something that I'm going to cook at home a week, but I'm not going to act like I'm going to cook 6 out of the 7 days this week. It's not going to happen. I'll cook 2. You will save so much money because you will not be wasting food. And food waste, it doesn't matter what side of the aisle you sit on, food waste is a big problem we have. Don't waste food. I mean, food's going to get wasted anyhow because not everybody's buying everything. But essentially, don't waste food. It makes us feel bad, like we're doing something wrong. And don't hold yourself to these high standards. Moving from eating out every single night of the week to cooking 6 days a week is unrealistic. If you are not cooking in more than 2 days a week, don't expect to jump to 6 days. It's just not going to happen. Maybe add a 3rd day that you're going to cook in. But if that's just not what you do, it's okay. It's okay to go out and eat. Okay, maybe not health-wise, but it depends on what you order. Maybe you get a salad. My mom gets a salad all the time. So maybe that's what you do. So that's one thing you could do. Now, there's a lot of things that you can do as you're looking at your bank account and your credit cards weekly that can help with this kind of thing. So let's say you notice that you are purchasing a lot online, a lot on Amazon. You can have rules like I have a rule. I don't purchase anything off social media. Will not do it. I send the ads to me, so there's a way you can share the ad and send it to myself, basically via email. I don't look at my email right away. I stay on social media, and by the time I look at it again, I think, what the heck was I thinking? Of course I don't want that. And I delete it. And if I still want it by the time it comes through, then I buy it. It's okay. You're allowed to buy some stuff, right? Amazon is another thing that is an Achilles heel for me, for sure. And it's an Achilles heel for a lot of people because it's just so easy on your phone or whatever you click. I just came up with a rule today that I'm not going to purchase anything on Amazon off a tablet or off my phone anymore. Just not going to do it. I sit at the computer enough. If I need it, I will buy it then, but I will not purchase it. I can put it in the cart. I can put it in a list, but I will not do it. And let's see how that goes. I've been pretty good about the social media thing, so I think that will help. I have another person in my life, she's not a client, they're just a friend, who says that they put it in the save, and they have a 36-hour rule that they basically cannot purchase it for 36 hours, and most of the time they forget. I've started moving things instead of the save cart because then they just show up all the time. I actually start adding it to the list. And for some reason, when I add it to the list, it doesn't show up as much in searches and as I open up Amazon, right? So maybe you have a rule, you only open up Amazon twice a week or something like that, There are little rules that you can set for yourself that will help that impulse buying. Prioritizing big purchases. So if you want to go on a trip, if you have a car, if you even are just buying something over $500, let's actually save for that. Let's actually put some money aside for that, so we're not putting it all on a credit card that we can't pay off, that we don't know how we're going to purchase it. Let's prioritize for big purchases, okay? It's just like taxes. You know it's coming. You know you're going to have to pay some taxes. Be prepared for it. Don't just, be a sitting duck, essentially. Be proactive, okay? And that's where our program of bucket list planning comes in. We do bucket list planning, and there is a video that I've talked about bucket list planning before. I will put it in the link or in the comments below, but essentially that is a big thing we do, which means that you should be enjoying life and being able to spend money, but do it in a way that is constructive for you so that you are still getting the most out of life, but still saving for the future. And basically, just think about your financial week. A lot of times I tell clients to think about what do they think that they're going to be spending money on. And if they think they're going to be spending money on a lot of little things, they are prepared for that. If they think they're not going to be spending money and then they see that they spend a lot of money, it's a wake-up call. So I think thinking about your financial week ahead of time is kind of interesting, and then you see what you did and you're like, oh my gosh, what am I doing, right? Keeps you more in check. So there is a thing on a resource page on our website, I will put that below as well, called Baby Step Your Way to Financial Independence, that has a lot of these little tips and tricks you can use for that. And hopefully that will give you some daily habits you can utilize to make things better for yourself. Just remember that things add up over time. So don't do everything at once. Just start slowly, It's the same thing as the eating out versus cooking. Just start slowly. Cook in 1 day a week if you're not cooking in at all. That's all you do. So be kind to yourself. Don't talk to yourself the way you wouldn't talk to other people. I have a hard time doing that too. And, have a method. Choose something that's going to work for you and commit to it for 30 days. If you can get through for 30 days and it has positively impacted your life, then choose to do another 30 days, or maybe add something else to it at that point too, so that you've got a couple of different habits working. And go slow. It's okay. It's okay to just make progress slowly, because you're going to actually get there much faster than taking huge leaps and failing and feeling bad about yourself. So there is a quote out there that says, budgeting doesn't have to be a headache. Try simple strategies and take control of your finances without stress. And I don't know who said that, so I can't give them credit. It was unknown. But I think that that's really important, is that it doesn't have to be a headache. It's all about the mindset that you have getting into it. And I would love to hear your comments. If there's a budgeting tool or something that you have utilized that has really worked for you, I want to hear about it. I want to hear what has worked for you. So leave those down in the comments so we can start a conversation about that. And with that, thank you so much for being around, sticking to the end of this video. I hope that this has helped you. And for next time, we are going to learn how to rediscover your passion and improve your finances at the same time. I hope you come back for that. Thank you again for being part of this community, and I will see you next time.